Hello and welcome to another video and another update on my 4x6 O Gauge Model Train Layout. I think it's been a little over a month since the last one, so I thought I'd do another one. And I've done quite a bit of work since then. The most obvious and prevalent is probably over here. I completed the mountain that covers over the elevated line. It came out pretty good. I wanted to mimic the mountains that you'll find similar to this on the Lionel dealer display layouts, with the steep sides and the lower level going through a tunnel, and then usually having an upper track going over it like this. So that was my source of inspiration. I just used some cardboard strips and then covered over it with craft paper, painted that, did some wash paint as well. I even made a little rock face over here, which that's just the craft paper wrinkled up. Threw some ground cover on top. I think it came out real nice. I also made these tunnel portals out of foam board. I carved the brick patterns into them. Those came out pretty nice as well. As you can see, I ballasted in the tunnel as well as on the upper level. I wanted to ballast in the tunnel before I did the mountain because I wouldn't be able to reach it. And then I ballasted up here once I did all the grass. So yeah, that's the mountain with the elevated line running over it. The next major thing I did was I painted all my roads that are over on this side, as well as some sidewalks and parking lot for the gas station. I also formed, and by formed I mean used foam board to elevate it to the level of the rails. I formed the street for the branch line, which is going to be a section of street running track. This is going to be sort of like the main street scene with downtown buildings on either side. And the branch line runs down the street, which, if you didn't know, is called street running. And I've always liked street running scenes, so I wanted to make one of my own on here. Now the two lanes of traffic are here and here. If you're driving this way, this is your right lane, and this is your left lane of oncoming traffic. And then this row right here is some parallel parking spots. I also have I put the sidewalk in, but I still got to either make or get some buildings. And this road just starts here and then winds around and goes to the other railroad crossing over there. So I got my streets painted, and this looks a little weird right now, but once the buildings are in place, the scene will be tied together real nicely. Now, I've also added some more accessories since the last time. In the last video, I covered the icing station and my Borden milk car with the milk platform. I ordered some more milk cans since then though. But as far as new accessories go, I added this Marx dual flood lamp tower. Way back here on each of the yard tracks, I put some Lionel MPC era lighted bumpers. I also reinstalled from my old layout my Marx water tower. Moving this way, I also from the old layout reinstalled my two Lionel 140 banjo signals. And these were already installed, but I wired them up since the last video. I wired up my Lionel mainline block signal and mainline crossing gates. So those are wired up now, as well as the Marx street lamps and the Girard station. Those were there before, but they are now wired up. So that's all the new accessories that I've added. Now, speaking of wiring, I have also built my switch panel down here that I was talking about in the last video. It came out pretty nice, still incomplete though, as you can see. As I get more and more accessories, I'll just keep adding switches. But so far I have some switches for lights down here. This quadrant is track power switches. Basically, I have 3 sections that are isolated and can be switched. I have branch line, which is the street running track, then yard track 1 and 2, which I'm referring to this one as 1 and this one as 2. So if I want to park a locomotive or something, I just pull it onto the track, toss the switch, and the locomotive won't get power. Now that's more for the yard. I can make the townspeople angry and park a locomotive in the street if I wanted, though not realistically practical. I can if I need to. The other switches, this is for the signal. It's train direction for the signal. Basically, flip it that way, the train's going that way. Flip it this way if you're going to run the train this way. And in the middle is off. Basically, in a nutshell, this stops the green light from illuminating, because the way I have these wired up, the crossings and the signal, is they're on isolated rails, which when the train, they're basically isolated from getting the common power with some insulating pins. When the train's wheels hit the track, it jumps the common over to the isolated rail that feeds whatever accessory, and it completes the circuit. So it's basically acting as a switch that's activated by the train. So when the train's coming this way, it'll be green, and when it hits that block, it'll drop to red. But if you're going to run the train in the opposite direction, you don't want it to pass the signal this way and then be green. So that switch just shuts off the green lamp depending on which direction the train's traveling. So that's everything on the switch panel. Again, this main row is going to be for lights and accessories. These are more for individual things. That's just how I organized it. Right now I've got park and station lights, which will turn on the street lamps in the station. I have gas station lights, but I didn't build my gas station yet. I'll probably scratch build that unless I find something. Then I have yard lights, which that will turn on the floodlight and the track bumpers. So that's what I have so far. The railroad crossings have their own switches. It was just easier wiring wise, and it'll take less room on the panel. As you can see, I have this short stubby switch so it doesn't stick out, labeled Main Street crossing on and off. And I didn't install this one yet, but I'll put one there too, just to shut them off when you don't want them on. Especially this one, because it makes a lot of noise if you're just switching or have a train sitting here and don't want to listen to those vibrator motors humming away. So that's the actual panel. Down here I have some separate controllers. These two are Lionel made. This one's homemade. This one controls the icing station, and this one is for the remote control track section for the milk platform. This one is homemade though, however. As you can see, it's been 3D printed. And these buttons are for some custom uncoupling magnets that I've installed. I've got one here, and I've got one there at the ice platform. So that's for those two magnets, this one and this one. This button labeled unload for the dump bin is for these homemade control rails. I made these out of some brass tubing on top of some popsicle sticks, and those are on just glued to the ties. The popsicle sticks insulate the brass from the metal ties from shorting out, but those are some homemade control rails like on a regular remote track or O Gauge UCS track to operate log dump cars, coal dump cars, or a barrel car. As of now, I only have a barrel car in my possession. I'll probably get a log car eventually when I run across one. But yeah, these are some homemade control rails for dump cars. A little crude, but it works, and it's a way to add another level of operation and fun in addition to those accessories. And that's it. I believe that's all that I have done since the last update video. The only other thing that I can think of is that I put in some fake ties, as they're called. They're really not fake, but they're not part of the actual track. They're just some pieces of balsa wood slid under the rails to give a more realistic look instead of having that gap between the rails. As you can see up here with the ballast, it looks really nice. Even for tubular track, it looks pretty realistic. I ballasted up top the mountain, as you can see, and in the tunnel, as I mentioned earlier, but I'm not going to be ballasting the main line for a while. I want to get all the ground cover and any other accessories in place before I ballast the main line. So pretty much the things I have left to do are just put ground cover down, grass wherever there's not a road or a building or anything. Then I need to get buildings, and then any other accessories. I most likely won't have any more operating car related accessories, just more scenery wise. I need to find something to fill this corner, maybe a rotating beacon or a water tower, and I might put a semaphore signal right before the tunnel. And then this is going to be a park like it was on my old layout, and in fact I saved some of it when I redid it. And then this corner back here, I'm likely just going to have my cornfield from the old layout. Yes, all those corn stalks that I planted and then tore up a week later to redo the layout. All that work going. But this corner and that corner back there, I'm still somewhat unsure about where things are going, but everything else I've pretty much settled on what's going to go where. So that's everything to cover in this video, so I hope you enjoyed. And to close out, I'm going to run my 2 trains, and I'll also show you the lights lit up as well. So I want to thank you for watching, and have a nice day. Here's the park and station lights. And here is the yard lights.